2016 was my most complete chase season to date. I chased in every month except for January and went full-time from late April right through the summer. I racked up a total of 91 storm chases, and after going through all the photos and videos and revisiting every single storm chase, here's a countdown of my top 10 storm chases of 2016. The countdown starts with Birthday Blast, and just a little bit of background information. My birthday's on February 3rd, and having grown up in Connecticut, I'm more used to seeing snow on my birthday than severe weather, but I was on a road trip in early February and had a chance for my first storm chase of the season down along the Gulf Coast states. So my first chase was in far eastern Mississippi, and I had a visual on a tornado. So one chase, one tornado, but this storm was in a very woody area, so I moved east into Alabama, and another tornado popped up. This was actually a long track tornado, a strong one, causing a lot of damage, and I was relatively close. The footage is a little bit muddy because we're losing daylight, and I'm using a test camera for the first chase of the season. A little bit rusty, but nonetheless, I was able to track this tornado for quite a while, even though it went in and out of trees. It was really neat to have a winter tornado, and I still to this day call it my birthday tornado. And I really had two tornadoes in two different states on February 2nd, so a great start to the storm chase season. I continued north and east with the supercells, but there's power flashes, there was considerable debris, and at one point there were just trees down everywhere, and I had to call the chase off. But what a great start to the storm chase season. Coming in at number 9 on the list is Save the Day, and this was a storm chase in which I started in southeastern Oklahoma, but quickly realized that not only had I missed the target, but the fact that I was surrounded by trees and hills, I was not in a good area. I turned back west, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that winds were backing ahead of a dry line, and supercells along the dry line were becoming rapidly intense. So I got into position, caught up with a storm near the Oklahoma-Texas border along the Red River, and I'm actually here in Texas watching a tornado form over the border in Oklahoma. It was my first tornado officially of the spring season, not including some preseason storms in February and March, but I was able to kind of watch in this field a tornado that not many chasers were on, and I do understand there were some more photogenic and more intense tornadoes to the north, but I had this one all to myself, and after the first few hours of the chase were a disaster. It was just great to see anything, let alone this tornado. So that made it a pretty good chase, very worthwhile. And as I headed back north after the storm had passed, there was a spectacular sunset on top of it, so that kind of made it all around a great storm chase. One of my actually favorite panoramic photos of the year. And this storm chase finishes the list at number 9 of my top 10 storm chases of 2016. Lighting up this list at number 8 is Lighting Up at Night, a storm chase that initially focused on eastern Colorado, but as things got messy there, I took a last-ditch effort and bailed south all the way to the Texas Panhandle. This is after starting the day in South Dakota, and I had this rotating wall cloud that was producing funnel clouds, and would it eventually produce something more? Well, only time would tell.
We have a tornado warning now.
Weather Service in Amarillo has issued a tornado warning for east central Potter County until 8:15 p.m. Central Daylight Time.
There was a long-duration tornado warning on this storm, but it wasn't until after sunset that, at fairly close range, all of a sudden it produced a tornado not that far away from me and also close to the city of Amarillo. But I got a chance to watch this tornado illuminated by essentially lightning, although there was a little bit of civil twilight there, just giving me a little bit of a glimpse. But considering all the driving and all the waiting, this was definitely a chase worth waiting for. Definitely one of my favorite chases of the year. And with it being toward the latter portion of the season in mid-June, there weren't a ton of storm chasers, and the chasers that were out for the most part focused on Colorado, but for me, the real action was all the way down in Texas. And here's a glimpse of my favorite photo. It's not a great resolution photo by any means, but it captures the storm very well. 2016 remained fairly active right into the late part of summer, and I found myself spending a lot of time in the Dakotas and the upper Midwest. Really nice country up there and relatively quiet. Some areas, a lot of really wide open space. But in this chase, which was my 68th of the season, I was really far north, one of my northernmost chases in the continental U.S. A discrete supercell was moving into western Minnesota and did not look very impressive on radar, but It did not take long for this funnel to touch down into a tornado, but the tornado only lasted for about 4 to 5 minutes. And the interesting thing here is if you look on the right part of the screen, a lot of people said it looked like a dinosaur head in the clouds. So you have this dinosaur head, this protruding funnel, tornado, and the tornado did lift back up into the sky. This picture is about 2 minutes later, so I only had a visual on this tornado for at most 4 minutes. No video with it. But this was only the beginning of a really wild night. Later in the night, this supercell really ramped up and produced a wedge tornado that I had a brief visual on, but it was very dark. I was very close, and there were a lot of trees around, so it was not a safe situation. I bailed east, saw multiple vortices from the storm, and that supercell was kind of just riding along a warm front, kept going north and east. I eventually called it a night, but not before seeing this from a distance. This is the supercell a few miles back, and you just get the idea of how massive this storm was. Definitely a very fun chase for me. Spinning in this list at number 6 is Leoti, and Leoti is a small community in western Kansas that had more than their fair share of severe weather episodes throughout the spring of 2016. I felt like almost every day I was watching radar, whether I was there or not, that area was getting hit quite a bit. And it was my 16th chase of the season, but it was one of the first chases with me and Ian Livingston. We were on a joint chasecation, and going back to the whole spinning theme, this rotating mesocyclone supercell did produce a tornado. And from this video, it's a little bit tough to tell because of rain, but I can see it touching down a couple of times. So we had a tornado on our hands. We weren't super close, but for me, it was actually pretty neat to be able to capture a tornado and the structure of the whole system there, so it was pretty neat. Many people will say that they've heard that I've gotten stuck on muddy roads, and part of that's because I want to get as close as possible and I don't have four-wheel drive, but yeah, we got stuck and it could have been bad, but luckily Ian was able to put his foot in the gas and I literally pushed the car out and we were okay to keep chasing, and I'm glad we still could because look at this structure, just really neat at sunset, and I will pay tribute to Ian with a shot of him taking a photo of this really neat supercell. So that's my top 6 storm chase of 2016. Mothership is a term that describes usually a supercell that takes on the appearance of almost like a flying saucer or a UFO. And this storm chase from July 9, 2016 near Carrington, North Dakota was, if anything, out of this world, or it felt like it. Just being able to watch this supercell evolve over the landscape was one of my most rewarding chases of the year, and as far as structure goes, I would say probably goes into the top 3. This photo is iconic. It really kind of just sums up the whole situation, and words really can't describe it. It was one of my most liked and shared photos on social media, and I could definitely see why. For me, being there and just being able to watch this, again, I can't put words to it. It was an outstanding chase. North Dakota has lived up to its storm chase, I guess, history, if you will. Even though I was only up there for a few chases this year, it seemed like almost every chase had some really great storms and some pretty neat structure. And for this whole chase, over the span of about an hour, at least for this supercell itself, I didn't move more than a couple of miles. And you could see the inflow. Even though there was some rotational loft, the low-level rotation was not nearly significant enough to produce a tornado, despite there being a tornado warning. But once again, I'll say it here, there does not have to be a tornado to have a great chase, and this was certainly one of my best of the year. Speaking of structure, exactly 1 month later, on August 9th, 2016, I found myself watching this low-rotating wall cloud associated with an intense supercell in northwestern South Dakota. The storm had produced larger than softball-sized hail, and it looked like a tornado might form, but despite very low cloud bases, there was no tornado. But in terms of structure, this was certainly the most impressive non-tornadic supercell I had chased in the year, and definitely the best chase that did not feature a tornado, because the diversity and structure alone made this chase that memorable. And to best showcase this chase, I sped up some raw video at 16 times the actual speed, and it only gives you a portion of the storm chase, and you can't really describe the feeling. It was great for me to be able to take this all in on one roughly east to west dirt road, that had some turns, but luckily the road was dry because that is a road that would quickly become impassable with rain. But the initial supercell at this point is gone. There's momentous clouds. You have approaching sunset. There are a couple of new updrafts. There were at least 3 discrete or semi-discrete supercells that kind of merged into a cluster here. And as sunset approached, I was able to just continue and just watch these storms from a little bit of a distance. But in this case, with no tornado and really nothing gained from getting closer to it, why not stay back and take in all the structure? So structurally, overall, just taking in everything, this ranks as one of the best chases of the year. And I'll just play the rest of the video out. As the sun begins to set, there's more momentous. We get some more color into the sky. Just an outstanding storm chase. And I was way out there, no cell reception, but that meant one less distraction. True Colors ranks as number 3 on my top storm chases of 2016, and you see an orange-reddish color with this updraft. This is actually the latter portion of the video I'm about to show you, and this was another late-season storm chase in North Dakota, but this one did produce a tornado, and I'm thankful I was at a distance because little did I know that this bubbling, towering updraft was going to just change colors and expand across the sky, and you can't even see it in this wide-angle video from a distance, but this towering updraft's going 40 to 50,000 feet, and the sun is hitting it. Here's a little bit of a video of the tornado. Not the most compelling tornado video, but just in terms of the structure of the storm itself, I'd have to rate it very high on my list, and obviously that's why this is number 3 for overall storm chases. This road was a dirt, muddy road, so I was a little bit hesitant. I eventually, after the tornado lifted, the road became windy, and I nearly got stuck. A very windy, muddy road out in rural eastern North Dakota, not an area you want to get stuck in. So for me to just be at a distance and to take in the whole storm made this a captivating scene and one of my favorite storm chases of the year. And the color at this point is blue. It did go to more of a purple, which better shows up in the following photograph. But yeah, a tornado in North Dakota, and actually my northernmost tornado of the year, and my number 3 storm chase of 2016.
Kind of a funnel, sort of. Yeah.
The truck's gonna stop right here.
Yeah, Jeff Frame is pretty close. We passed him. There we go. We have a funnel cloud, a little more well-defined. It's going down.
Some footage needs no introduction, and that's the case with this storm chase on May 25th. Ian and myself were tracking a long track, violent EF4 tornado in north central Kansas. This tornado was in progress for 1 hour and 33 minutes, and it did significant damage. Initially, it was tracking parallel to I-70, which gave us a great vantage point to stop on the interstate, take pictures, take video, but I could see that it was taking a right turn, approaching the interstate, and it was producing some very large hail, so I did not want to mess around with it. So I'm rushing ahead. We raced ahead of it, but there's only so much video you can show. It was over an hour with this storm, but this was an encore performance, the number 1 storm chase of 2016. The number 1 ranked storm chase of my 2016 season has to be the best storm chase of my entire career, and a big thanks goes out to Ian Livingston, who was my co-pilot on May 24th, 2016 for a wild ride. And it all started with this relatively benign-looking funnel cloud.
Once you're done, we can turn north on this next road and get right under it.
And that was exactly my goal, to get right under it, to get as close as safely possible to this tornado. That started off relatively small, but was gradually growing larger and larger and also moving at a relatively slow rate of speed. This slowly moving tornado over a great road network in southwestern Kansas allowed us to get exceptionally close to a destructive tornado, and also we had plenty of time to stand on the ground and take photos and video. something that does not happen in most chases, as you're usually rushing to get in target or you're literally chasing the tornado. At this, it almost didn't even feel like a chase. We were kind of just leisurely following it. And the first tornado lifted, we had another one, and my conservative estimate is that we saw at least 8 tornadoes, and there were at least 3 different times where we saw 2 tornadoes in progress at the same time. Just an unbelievable storm chase, no doubt the best of my career so far. I'll leave you with a few of the more vivid images from the storm chase, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching my top 10 storm chases, and let me know what was your favorite of my top 10 storm chases of 2016.